Hello, boys and girls. We're going to go ahead and do something we haven't started for the school year yet. We're going to work in our social studies and science book. So we're going to skip doing a grammar lesson today because I think we can get all of that done tomorrow during our video during grammar. So please go get your social studies and science workbook or notebook out of your bin. I'm going to go ahead and get our camera open. Here it is. All right. Well, honestly, I started this video already and then had a problem. So I did write in this book and I had to white it out. So we'll just try to make the best of it here. All right. We, in our book, have some different sections with blue paper in there. So the first one says geography and the second blue paper says science. So if you could find that, find the page that says science. And then you're going to open it up and the very first lesson says day 1, why do flowers have different colors and scents? Okay. See, does that light help? Nope, that's too much. Okay. We're going to go ahead and read at the top here. 9 out of every 10 plants on earth have flowers. Flowers are beautiful to look at and to smell, but they are also important to the plant because they make seeds. Plants need seeds to reproduce or make new plants. The sizes, colors, and scents of flowers are all different. Scientists call these differences adaptations. Adaptations help plants grow and survive. And over here on the corner, we have our 2 vocabulary words, adaptation and reproduce. So adaptation means change in a living thing that helps it live in its environment. So color, size, and the smell help them change to keep living in their environment so they can be successful and keep living. Reproduce means to produce offsprings or babies. So the seeds being planted reproduce that same plant and continue the plant species going. All right. So under the letter A section, it says name 2 adaptations that flowers have. And we have them right up here. It lists 3 of them. So you can just pick 2. I'll pick size and color. Okay. I'm writing over white out because I did white this out because I had already done this whole video before something happened and it didn't work out. Okay. Under section B, it says write a vocabulary word to complete each sentence. So here's our vocabulary words right here, adaptation and reproduce. Number 1, seeds help plants make new plants or, see right here, it says make new plants or reproduce. Okay. A flower's color is one adaptation that helps the plant survive. I'm going to write it up here just to hopefully make it a little easier. A flower's color is one adaptation that helps the plant survive. And then down below it says, describe a flower that grows where you live. What color is it? What does it smell like? So I wrote, I see a lot of beautiful sunflowers where I live. They are usually dark brown with yellow or orange petals. They smell kind of earthy, like a little bit like dirt. I see them up on the hillsides of the mountains. When I'm driving around the neighborhoods, I see big, huge sunflowers. And then I see little bushes of sunflowers. And so there's lots of different sunflowers. They're my favorite flowers, so I do enjoy them. All right, so go ahead and get your sentence written, whatever you're going to write here. So pause the video so that you can write about your favorite flower that you see growing where you live. And then when you're finished, turn the page to day 2 that says, why do flowers have different colors and scents? All right, so remember, pause if needed. We're going to go watch a video real quick and then come back and fill out these questions. Okay. Oh, goodness. Sorry about that. All right. Let's go back to our book. Right. So let's look at this one. It says, why do flowers have different colors and scents? And we'll read this little paragraph right here. Flowers make seeds when pollen travels from the male part of a flower to the female part. Insects help carry pollen from one flower to another. When an insect lands on a flower, pollen sticks to the insect. When the insect visits another flower, some of the pollen falls off its body and pollinates that flower. All right, so let's look at our two vocabulary words. We have pollen, which is a grainy yellow dust made by the male part of the flower, and pollinates brings pollen from one flower to another. So a bee pollinates by going from flower to flower. So this says, number the events below in the correct order. Okay, so we have the bee flies to another flower, the bee lands on a flower to eat and drink, the flower makes seeds, pollen falls off of the bee, pollen sticks to the bee. So what do you think happens first when the bee is by the flower? So the first thing that happens is the bee lands on a flower to eat and drink. That's the first thing he does. What would be the second thing? How about pollen sticks to the bee? Remember, it sticks all over its arms and legs and back. What would be the next one? The next one would be the bee flies to another flower. All right, and once it's on that flower, pollen falls off of the bee and mixes with the pollen that's already on the flower. And then the flower makes seeds after being pollinated. Okay. Make sure you have those written down. You might need to pause the video. We're going to go to the bottom. Write the vocabulary words to complete the sentence. When a bee carries blank from one flower, would it be pollen or pollinates? It would be pollen. Okay. When a bee carries pollen from one flower to another, the bee pollinates the flower. Kind of hard to write on that whiteout that's on the bottom there. When a bee carries pollen from one flower to another, the bee pollinates the flower. How else might pollen get from one flower to another? How do you think? What's another way that the pollen could mix besides just insects? Could it be the wind knocking them against each other? Could that possibly happen? Could it brush off on, say, a gardener that's walking through the flowers and gets some on their clothes and then bumps into other flowers, I wonder? I bet if you took a feather and dusted around inside of a flower, you could take it to another flower and dust around in that and mix the pollen. That would be really neat. I do have an activity for us to do once we get back to school. So if anybody helps me remember that when we do get back to school, we want to pollinate flowers. I have an activity for us to do. It's really fun, I think. All right, guys, that is all you're going to do for your science. Let's go ahead to the very, very, very front of the book and go to, oh, sorry, let me make it big. Let's go to social studies, okay? We're going to go to the very first page in social studies. Oh, if I can turn my page. Okay. All right, it says we're on page 15. That's the number that's on the bottom, but it's actually our first page. All right, we're going to talk about some people that were part of a Native American tribe that lived in America, and let's learn a little bit about them. Okay. Tecumseh lived in Ohio. He was the leader of the Shawnee. The settlers wanted the Shawnee land. He fought against them. He was very brave. Tecumseh asked other tribes to help him fight the settlers. He was a good speaker. He traveled the land to speak to other leaders. Tecumseh met the governor. He asked him to give back the land. The governor said no, so Tecumseh and his people joined the British. They were fighting a war against the Americas. The British said they would help Tecumseh get the land back. The British lost the war. Tecumseh died in battle. His people had to live on a reservation. Tecumseh was a hero. He fought for his people's land. He fought for their freedom. So when the European settlers came over to the Americas, there were Native American tribes that lived here already. And so sometimes the European ideas, the people from Europe, their ideas clashed with the people that lived here. And so there were oftentimes these battles to see who was going to get to keep the land. And so in this case, they tried to join the British because the British wanted to keep America. So when we had our Revolutionary War, if you've ever heard of that, that's when the people who created, their homes here in America did not want to be part of Britain anymore. So they were in the American Revolution, and they won their freedom to have their own country. So let's go to the questions that we have here. Who was Tecumseh? Was he an American soldier? Was he a farmer from Ohio? Was he a British soldier? Was he a Shawnee leader? This should say soldier. It's spelled wrong. He was a Shawnee leader. What did Tecumseh want from the governor? Now, if we can't remember, we can go back up into the story. It says, Tecumseh met the governor. He asked him to give back the land. The governor said no. So Tecumseh and his people joined the British. They were fighting a war against the Americas. Okay, so let's read here. What did Tecumseh want from the governor? He wanted him to come for a visit. He wanted him to give back the land. He wanted him to trade with his people. He wanted him to go to a reservation. It says right here that he wanted them to give back the land. Okay. Number 3 says, what happened to that name's hard for me to say apparently. What happened to Tecumseh and his people? He became famous and his people got their land back. He went to live in England. His people were happy. He died and his people were sent to a reservation. He died and his people got their land back. Well, we can look up here. He died in battle. His people had to live on a reservation. So we're going to go with C. All right. We're going to slide ourselves back one more thing, and we're going to go to geography. So make sure you have all of that finished, and then we're going to go to geography to the very first page. And this page says, what is a globe? All right, so now if you needed to pause so that you can get the other stuff finished, do that, because then when you unpause, you'll be right here with us, okay? It says here, a globe is a model of Earth. It is shaped like a ball, okay? This is usually the little axis that it shows us. This is how it is in outer space. It's kind of like there's this little axis that goes through it, and it spins on its side there. We have it, the North Pole and the South Pole and the equator in the middle. A globe shows an imaginary line called the equator. The equator runs around the center of the Earth. So that's what decides that this is the northern hemisphere and this is the southern hemisphere of the globe. All right, so we're going to be using this page for some information, but if we turn it, let's see, maybe. All right, let's go to the Monday question. A globe is a model of, so let's go back here. A globe is a model of Earth. I'm going to fill that in. Capital E, lowercase a, R, T, H. A globe and Earth are shaped like a ball. Okay, pause if you need to. Number 1 on Tuesday says, name the imaginary line shown on the globes. Where is the imaginary line? It says, a globe shows an imaginary line called the equator. Okay, so the equator goes around the center, and then the next question says name 2 continents. Now, continents are a landmass, and there are 7 of them. So we see continents here: Asia, Africa, Pacific, that's the ocean, sorry, Antarctica, Australia. So just name 2 of those. And we live over here in North America. So I might write down Australia and North America. Those are the 2 I wanted to write. You can write whichever 2 you want to. You can refer back, just flip the page so you can see. All right. For Wednesday, what is the most northern part of Earth called? The most northern part of Earth is called the North Pole. Okay. What is the southernmost point on Earth called? The southernmost point is called the South Pole. Okay. So freeze this if you need to, pause this if you need to. We just have a few more questions to go on the very next page. Okay. And Thursday says, is Australia south or north of the equator? Okay, let's go back to our page. Let's find Australia. There's Australia right there. Is it north of the equator or south of the equator? It is south of the equator. Okay. Number 2, is most of South America north or south of the equator? Okay. So here's South America. Is most of it north of the equator or south of the equator? So most of it is down here. So it is south. Okay. Go ahead and pause it if you need to. All right, on Friday's one, it says here, in which continent do you live? So I marked it for us. Where do we live? We live in North America, or the North American continent. Okay, North America. Do you live north or south of the equator? So here's the equator. Do we live north of it or south of it? Okay. Oh, goodness. I live north of the equator. All right. So make sure you pause this so you can get these written down. When you're finished, you can do the challenge. On all 3 globes, color the oceans blue, color the continents green. Okay? You can get your coloring crayons out and color the oceans blue and the continents green. I won't do that on camera because I know that you already know how to color. So you can go ahead and get those colored in. Make sure that you finish those so that it's all the way finished. And then guess what, guys? We have done 1 lesson in each part of our social studies book. You're done with the first lesson in social studies, the first lesson in geography, and the first lesson in science. First and second. All right, guys. So that is all you needed to do for that. That was a fun. I hope you guys had fun with that. I thought it was fun. All right, let's see if I can find you again. Here we are. All right, so you can put that away once you've finished all of your work. You can rewind the video if you need to so that you can make sure you get it all down. I try not to go too fast, but I also know that the videos get to be kind of long. So, all right, guys, I will see you tomorrow in our morning message. All right, thank you.